It's a pleasure to be back with you today and to present a topic that seems to be timeless. I have been giving this program since 1981. And why is that? Because I think it's a topic that everyone is interested, obviously, for a lot of reasons, in that when we exude a professional presence, it says so much about our leadership. But what is it? That's what I'll be talking about today. Leadership is very much about projecting a presence, knowing what to do, how to do it, and how to present yourself in any situation. I'd like to show you a quote from a retired chairman of and CEO of Hannah Corporation, which gratefully he wrote one of the endorsements for one of my books. And I think he says it well. If you'll just take a look at what this says on the screen. At the top level of a company, business etiquette and interpersonal skills become more glaringly important. When executives fail, it's more often due to their lack of interpersonal skills in dealing with people than lack of managerial or technical skills. So understanding the rules of business etiquette and applying them will go a long way to ensure success. And of course, he meant all of the aspects of professional presence. I'd like to open with a polling question. And so, Alex, would you show the first slide on our question 1?
Sure, absolutely. And Valerie, just to confirm, it's the question, what areas of concern would you like to have addressed on the subject? Correct? Okay, perfect, great. So what I'm actually going to do, guys, is I'm going to launch a poll question. You'll see the question on your GoToWebinar screen. The question is the following: what areas of concern would you like to have addressed on the subject? And you can select one of the following. Are interested in the whole topic? Are you perhaps focused primarily on understanding the skills to help you exude a professional presence, professional image tips, business etiquette, leadership behavior tips, or social savvy networking tips? And we'll give the attendees a couple more seconds to chime in here. We see that about half of you have submitted your response. So these poll questions are actually pretty important, so that it helps us kind of direct the conversation in the direction that you would like to most see it in. So definitely submit your response. Great. I see that most of us have responded. And what I'm going to do right now is show the results of the poll. It looks like we have a good mix, Valerie. About 40% of the folks on the call are interested in the entire topic. About 20% are interested in looking at the skills to help them exude a professional presence. 17% are interested in focusing in on business etiquette, leadership behavior tips. And then we have 12% professional image tips, and then another 12% interested in social savvy networking tips.
That's great. Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. This is a full-day seminar. We're going to do it an hour, so I'll talk fast, you listen fast. If you get through before I do, you let me know, okay? Let me go on to just say one thing. I am not Miss Manners. I was not born with a silver spoon in my mouth, and I want to make that very clear up front. I have made all the mistakes. I think that's why I'm an expert. So there is nothing that you could ask me that is a silly question. And as an example, I once went to a dinner with a client. It was in the Netherlands, and several of us were sitting around this luncheon table. It was hosted by the Netherlands a company representative of the company that we were with, and lunch was served. And just to show you that not everyone knows at all times, we were served this little small dish of what looked like maybe a potato soup or something like that, except it was clear. It wasn't hot, it wasn't cold, it was sort of just room temperature. We all looked at each other. I looked over at the host, of course, to see what he would do, and pretty soon he took a spoon and started eating it. We did too. And it was very good. We wondered what it was. Well, at the same time, the service over at the table to our left was given the exact same soup or whatever it was, but they were served mushrooms with it, and our mushrooms came later. We had just eaten the dip. So all of that to say, again, we just have a lot of questions, and there's no place to go these days to get all the answers, and I think that's why a topic like this is important. I'm curious, too, Alex, on the second polling question, if you don't mind asking that. I'd kind of like to know, where everyone is coming from in your role today.
Sure, absolutely. And so the question is pretty straightforward. Are you currently going through a transition into a new job or role? And select one of the following, yes or no. Very interesting. Most of us chimed in pretty quickly. And it looks like, Valerie, that an overwhelming majority, 85%, are currently going through a transition into a new job or role. So quite a few folks who are making that switch.
Well, I'm not surprised. It's sort of the world that we're in. So let's just get started. Whoops, let me go back. That just didn't work. Okay, this is my logo, and let me tell you where it's coming from. Alex said that my focus has always been on people skills. Back in 1981, I wasn't sure what Valerie Company would end up being, but I did know that I had a passion about the fact that relationships and the ability to communicate effectively and build strong relationships was extremely important. That came because my background was broadcasting. I was a radio and television host, and I had to quickly build relationships with people in order to have an effective communication on the radio or television show. So back in 1981, not everyone got the fact that people skills were important. In fact, at one point I went to, I was asked by a gentleman to join him in a sales training firm. And I thought that would be great. I had only been in business a couple of years and gratefully had gotten some exposure. He called me and he said, listen, I've got those hard-edge skills, you know, those measurable sales training skills, and you've got the soft skills. I've always hated that because hard dollars are made with soft skills, right? But I didn't say anything. I just listened, and he said, why don't you join me? I did. After 9 months of doing nothing but sales training, I went to him and I said, you know, we're not doing any of the soft skills in your words, and when will we do that? And here's what he said. I don't think we will, Valerie. I don't think companies will pay for that. You can imagine how I felt. I was frustrated, I was angry, and I told him I was sorry, but we were going to part ways. I learned something from that, and I learned that when you have a passion and you believe strongly in what you're doing, don't let anyone tell you that it's not of value. So I moved on, and I'm grateful to say I'm still in business. Now, where did the 85 and 15% statistics come from? When I started the business, I had to do some research, and I went to Harvard I went to a Harvard survey and a Stanford survey and a Carnegie Institute survey, and here's what they say. 85% of what helps us move forward in our careers has to do with how well we do communicate and build relationships, the people skills. Only 15% has to do with those technical skills. And the higher you go in your career, the more evident that is. So my job today, and here's the umbrella, is to raise your umbrella of awareness and cover over all of the wonderful attributes you already have and build on them. So that's what we're going to be about today. Let's look at the different things that you probably are involved with as a leader. And I'm going to say all of you are leaders. We are all leaders in our own rights. We have to inspire. We typically coach. We have to talk about a vision. Sometimes we're put in a mentorship position. Teamwork is always going to be there. Winning, motivating, leading by example. But let's think about what exactly are the parts of a professional presence. So I'd like for you to have poll question 3, and this is an open-ended question. I want you to think about someone that you admire, that you think has a professional presence, and just write down a few words. What are the words that you would use to describe that person, a male or a female? Maybe someone that you don't even know, but you admire it from afar. Could be a boss, a relative, someone that has a professional presence. What are some of the words that you would use to describe that person? And I want you to put them into the system so that Alex can tell me what some of those words are.
Right, and guys, you can add your comments through the questions box. So if you just go into that section and tell us, think of someone you know, what words describe him or her that you believe have a professional presence that we can share with the rest of the attendees. Great. So we see that one person mentioned confidence. Very, very good. Confidence, articulate, charismatic, outgoing, physically fit, steady-handed, very good. Charisma, unflappable, very good. Very good. Confidence, that is very, very important. Clear communication, calm, consistent, again, unflappable. Interesting, Don, visionary, Amin, depth of character, very good. Generosity, very good. Gravitas, Andy mentioned well-dressed, articulate, good demeanor, very interesting. Driven, focused, inspiring, diplomatic, very, very good. Excellent comments, guys. Thank you so much.
And I thank you too. And what I want you to think about as Alex read those words were the fact that some of them had to do with how someone looked, when you talked about fit and well-dressed. Some of the words had to do with how someone behaved, articulate, confidence, calm. And some of the words, frankly, were both. And that's the point. The whole point of that exercise is to say it's the total package of how someone looks, acts, walks, talks, and is from the inside out, that authentic person that they are. It's the little things that matter. We know the big things, so my role today is to talk about the little things. It's like we're going to build a chain link fence. If you just picture a link, a chain link, right? And what happens if one of those links is weakened? Well, the whole chain is weakened. So I want to make sure that every single link in your chain is strong so that you have a strong presence. So let's talk about professional image first. You know, when it comes to how we look, it is sad but true. It takes 12 positive impressions to bring back one negative first impression. So why not make sure we're on target from the beginning? The fact is we make judgments so quickly these days. Now, I know that when I'm in front of an audience, people start making judgments about me the minute they see me walk on stage, and that's not fair. I want them to get to know me. But the reality is we live in such a fast-paced world that that's just the way it is. We make those fast judgments. This is the world we live in, where things are moving. These are two words put together. Things are moving so fast, and the issues that we deal with every day are more complex. So we're living in a world of perplexity. And in this world of perplexity, these are psychologically, according to research by author Tom Mallow and others, these are the judgments that you and I make on that first impression basis. So I want you to think about these things when you're interviewing and going through this transition period. Let me just put them up one at a time. Isn't that interesting? Those things that go through people's minds, not fair, but it's the way it is. After all, would you go to this brain surgeon? Well, you know, he doesn't look like one, right? He doesn't look like what you perceive he should look like. And people perceive what a professional, depending on the industry, should look like. Because the reality is we sell ourselves first, and then we earn the right to sell and deliver our services. And class is earned and learned. As I said, it has nothing to do with a silver spoon born in your mouth. So I'm going to take the approach of a film strip. And why am I doing this? Because we dress for the role that we're going to play. And so as we think about this, first let's identify your image. And the way I'd like for you to think about this is just to consider what is the organization's image that you're in currently or you want to be a part of. Is it conservative? Does it have a flair? Is it more casual? Is it artistic? What is it? And then who are the customers and clients that you deal with or will deal with? on a regular basis? What's their image? And think about what's appropriate for you. We dress for the role in which we play. And you always want to dress for the role you want to, where you want to be, not necessarily where you are today. So let's give a little much further thought. Just some statistics, or not statistics, some logistics about the clothing we wear. Basically, lines that we wear, if you just look at someone, you either are going to see someone that's dressed with more vertical lines or more horizontal. And let me give you the examples in a picture. You want to do the opposite of what you are. So that's a quick tip. Do the opposite of what you are. Here's an example. As you look at these two people, you can't help but notice your eye goes up and down. So obviously when you're wearing vertical lines, it makes you look taller and more slender. Well, this picture shows people that are wearing more horizontal lines. And so the eye goes back and forth from left to right. So do the opposite. If you are a person that already has width to your body, then why would you wear horizontal lines that would only make you look wider? So that's a pretty simple tip, which is do the opposite of what you are. Now let's take the M, managing your wardrobe. A few things on this. The first and most important thing is, what is the message you want to give? I'm not here to tell you exactly what to wear. I'm here to say, get up in the morning and say to yourself, who am I going to be in front of today? And what's the message I want to give? Watch for those successful business peers and those who are going to help you determine your success. What do they look like? What's the purpose of your clothing? Dress for the way a satisfied customer or client would expect you to represent the company that you represent. Managers and executives should dress for the level of success that they expect their current position to give them. And as I said, always dress a step toward where you're going rather than where you've been. So who are you going to be in front of? What clothing is suitable for you, meaning does it fit you? Is it flattering? What style or fashion? And by the way, is it style or is it fashion? Style is long-lasting. Fashion comes and goes. So put your money in style first and then add trends as you go along. Make sure your clothing is durable, meaning it'll hold up. I certainly would not travel in something that's going to wrinkle easily. Is it versatile, what you select to buy for your wardrobe? Multi-piece items are much more versatile than just buying a matched suit. And then there's such a thing called cost per wearing. And this is simply saying when you start to purchase something, I don't care what it is, think about how often you'll wear it, and that determines cost per wearing. Let me give you an example. Let's say you're looking at a shirt that costs $100. And you say to yourself, well, it's a pretty conservative shirt. I'll probably wear it a couple of times a week. Assuming that you have 2 weeks vacation, that would be worn 50 times in a year. I'm sorry, 100 times in a year if you wore it twice a week. Well, hopefully it would last you, let's say, 3 years minimum. So in 3 years, you would wear that shirt 300 times. Divide 300 into $100, and it means every time you wear that shirt, it costs you about 33 cents. That's worth buying versus some really trendy item that you would only wear maybe once or twice a month because it is not that versatile. Some basics. What's an investment wardrobe? Classic, good quality, it fits you, and the fabric is one you can wear at least 9 months out of the year. I'll give you some examples for a woman. The little black dress is perfect because you can dress it up, you can dress it down, you can wear a jacket, take it to daytime, to evening. Some things about gentlemen. Make sure that the belt and the shoes match. You probably knew that. The tailoring. The back of a suit to be very, very smooth and the nape of the neck fit smoothly. So have a good tailor. And when you think about tailor, make sure both men and women that tailor measures both arms and both legs, because we're not absolutely exactly the same from one side of our body to another. Let's go to accessorizing. This is a little too much, wouldn't you agree? Simple, elegant is much better for a professional look. And by simple and elegant, I mean leather band or good quality metal, not those great big Swatch watches or divers watches that draw too much attention to the watch and not to you and how you're communicating. A good strand of pearls is a given. It goes with anything. Again, you probably knew things like that. But I want to get to grooming. And why would I go to grooming, for heaven's sakes? Don't we know to be well groomed? Well, I'll tell you why. Because there's not a company that I'm in front of that doesn't say, Valerie, these are some things that we see and we really don't appreciate that people do. So let's take a look at some of the grooming aspects. Here's something to think about. What do you notice and dislike about the opposite sex that are image spoilers? Now, I'm going to tell you from research from HR professionals across this country, the ones that tend to be the image spoilers. And as I read this list, you see if in fact these aren't some that you would have listed. So for women, careless grooming, things like nails, cleanliness, breath, dandruff. Clothing that's too tight, wrinkled, soiled, or needing repair. Lack of attention to details, things like missing buttons, frayed collars, unraveled hems. Overrun shoes, scuffed shoes. Visible tattoos or facial piercing. Too much perfume or makeup, that's a big one. Hairstyle that's outdated. When was the last time you had a new do? Or unprofessional. Too short a skirt length, too many accessories, chipped nail polish, yes, people notice your hands, and stomach visible. I can't even imagine doing that, but that's from the HR perspective. All right, here are the ones that men sometimes do. Again, careless grooming, nails, cleanliness, dandruff, breath. Again, clothing too tight, wrinkled, soiled, or needing repair. Again, lack of attention to details, and shoes and tattoos. But here's the difference. Too much break in the pant at the shoe line, or pants that are too short. We've all seen the waders, we call them. The belt that's below the stomach, meaning a stomach that is hanging over the belt. We see that too. Short sleeve dress shirt under a professional jacket suit. You should have a half-inch shirt showing past the cuff of the suit coat. Too much aftershave or cologne. Legs showing between socks and pants. And wearing sandals or cargo pants to work. Again, can't imagine, but that's from HR. Now some slides to go along with this. All right, yes, this is a little silly, but tattoos, cover them up in most professions. Facial, just don't even go there. My goodness, even Barbie has a tattoo. Can you believe it? People do notice our hands, women, so make sure that they are groomed, and one ring per hand. One ring per hand. We all have bad hair days. I know that. But hair really can make a difference, both for men and for women. How about this for a makeover? Yep, that's the exact same woman. Can you believe it? Now, here's an interesting scenario. We took a gentleman that grew out his whole beard, and as I show you these slides, I want you to say to yourself, I think that person's position is. So what do you think this person does for a living? Most people say lumberjack. Now what's your perception? At least he shaved it a bit. What does he do for a living? What does he do for a living? And this one. And finally, this one. So the interesting point is, you made judgments, didn't you? Back to that point. So let me just show you a few slides and then we'll move on into business behaviors. These are things that are inappropriate, and if you don't pay attention to the little things, then are you paying attention to what you do at work every day? Like overrun heels or shoes, the break in the pant, too short a skirt, a little distracting, wouldn't you say? There's the hairy legs showing. And then makeup. You know what, women? I know we're all beautiful, right? But I truly believe God gave us makeup for a reason. And so a little bit of lipstick, a little blush, a little mascara doesn't hurt anyone, and it makes a difference in how professional you look. Now, I get asked a lot of questions about business casual. What in the heck is it? You know, back in the 80s when companies decided that they were going to say business casual, well, that was fine, except they didn't tell us what it was. So I wrote a book about it. It's called Business Casual, Clarify, Please. And it is available. You can go to my website and take a look at it. And I was asked to come into the Federated stores. Those are the Bloomingdale's and the Macy's and some of those chains. And this again back in the 80s. And they wanted to be the business casual place of expertise. They wanted to get the word out to customers that you can come to Federated stores and we know what business casual is. So obviously, if you can think about this, I had to write something very simple so that the sales associates could get it and then help clients. So I tried to make it very simple, and let me kind of tell you the 3 categories that I came up with. So I said in this book, look, most companies aren't doing the power suit anymore. That's at one end of the continuum. And weekend wear, I don't care what you wear, it's your weekend, right? But somewhere in the middle is business casual. So there's high-level business casual, mid-level, and base level. And basically this is what it is. For women and men, the high level is closer to the continuum of the power suit, meaning a jacket. The mid-level is not necessarily wearing a jacket, and I'll show you some pictures, but skirts and slacks, excuse me, in some industries, khakis. And base level is more for those industries where you don't have client contact. So perhaps, I don't know, perhaps jeans would be appropriate, but certainly well-pressed jeans and dark jeans. In others, no, khakis. So let's take a look at what these look like. Here's examples of high-level business casual. Slacks for the man, a tie, usually. Coordinated for the woman, it can be a matched pantsuit or a dress. Here's another example for a man. This is high level with the jacket. All right, let's take a look at mid-level. You can see he has on khakis. She's much more casual. There's no jacket involved, but still professional. And base level. For these 2 people, they look crisp. They look groomed. Yes, they're in jeans, but they're not in khaki jeans with holes in them. How could anybody pay for jeans with holes in them? But they do. All right, I hope that was helpful. And let me just summarize. Dress for where you want to be, not where you are. Project yourself upward. Yes, it's the little things that count. We know the big things, but the derailers are those little things. Do the opposite of what you are. If you're tall and slender, then you can afford to wear clothes that have more of a horizontal line periodically. If If you're a gentleman who sometimes with age we get a little bit of pouch around the middle, men and women, so I certainly am not going to wear a jacket as an example with patch pockets because my hips are a little bit wider than the rest of me. So I don't want to draw attention to that. Do the opposite of what you are. Consistency. Don't go in one day looking like you're going to a cocktail party and the next day in a power suit. Who are you? This is the important one. What is it I want to say? My clothes give a message, and what is it? And think about that first impression. Make it the good one from the moment you first meet somebody. And just think about, you know what is expected and respected in this job interview, in my role, in my customer interaction, and so forth. That closes this out, the image portion. Second bucket is business etiquette. I've written several books around this. The latest one is called Do It Right, and it's a compilation of quick tips about image, about behavior, about international travel. There's even a section in there about how to interact with people with disabilities. I don't know any other etiquette book that has that piece in it. So I'm grateful to say that's working well for me. Now here's a question, an open-ended question for you. I want you to think about what is the number one, I call it a bugaboo, something that just drives you crazy that people do and you wish they didn't. I'll give you mine as an example. And I'd like for you to maybe give some to Alex as well as I'm sharing mine. Mine is when someone brags. I call it a whammer, W-A-M. What about me? What about me? You know, those cocktail parties or those business meetings or those connections that we have with people, and before you're through, they told you everything about themselves that never asked you anything about you. That's my bugaboo. What are some of yours?
Great, and you can ask those, you can answer those and submit those through the questions box. See a couple are already in. One is incorrect English,
Okay.
gossip, lack of respect, interesting. Talking about the weather, interesting, Sergio. I guess that perhaps indicates that there's no direct interest in what someone is inquiring about. Any others? Feel free to send those in. Those are the ones that we have currently. Another one that came along, which I can certainly relate to, checking the BlackBerry or the watch repeatedly during some sort of meeting.
I'm glad you can't see me doing that. I'm checking the time.
Dominating conversations, showing disrespect for others, people who reek of cigarette smoke, too much sports discussion, lack of proper etiquette, and another one, interrupting others who perhaps are speaking. Very good point, Mark. Pessimistic views. Thank you, Robert. Great, excellent submissions. Thank you so much.
Thank you for those. Those are excellent. And they cover the gamut, don't they? Some of them are conversational things. Some of them are, when you say showing respect, certainly the one about checking your BlackBerry, that is, I don't know, what are we going to do with our technology? It's wonderful, but it can just drive havoc. And there's nothing more disrespectful than to be trying to communicate with someone and frankly, they may be addicted to their BlackBerry. There is such a thing. We know that. I literally have two friends who know people who are so addicted to the BlackBerry and their computer that sometimes they don't even sleep at night. Now that seems really strange to me, but it is disrespectful, so turn it off and don't use it in the restaurant and so forth. The cigarette smoke, I don't know that people recognize that they have that, but I can get in an elevator and someone come out from going outside during lunch and they take a smoke and they get in and it's all over us. So the point I think that's important here is these are, again, little things, and people either don't recognize them or haven't taken the time to think about what does it do to somebody else? In other words, what impact do we have on other people? That's really what building relationships, again, is all about in our behaviors. I'm going to go through several slides, and hopefully some of these will answer some questions or bring up some other concerns that you might have. And these are just slides showing some things that I've been asked to address in companies when I give this program. One is, what might people look like, I'll hear from a leader, from a manager, when they travel? Well, you know what? Your laptop, if you're with a company, may have, or your luggage may have the company logo on it. And what do you look like when you get on the plane? Because you still represent that company. So here are two people who are entering into a conference center. They're obviously coming there for a couple of days, and they look like professionals, right? What about meetings when someone is speaking? Now, all these people, or some of them, have their computers up, but the point here is, look at the fact that they are looking and listening. It's clear that the speaker has their attention. They don't have their heads down typing the whole time. Show respect for the speaker. And that leads to this group of an actual program that I was giving, and I captured these young people who were so engaged, taking notes, writing things down. It made me, as the speaker, appreciate the fact that they were there to learn and they cared enough to take notes. That says something. You know, when you go to those big conventions and you're maybe sitting in the middle, how disconcerting is it when someone in the middle of the room gets up to answer an email, or, I don't know, perhaps even use the restroom? But it's very disruptive. So do whatever you can to stay engaged during that long meeting and to listen to the speaker, no matter how boring he or she is. That person deserves respect for the time that they have taken to present to you. And I know not everyone is a great presenter, but if they're in front of you and you're in the session, please give them your respect. Late to appointments. Well, that isn't cute. It's disrespectful. When you go into someone's office, how to sit or how not to sit. Handshakes. Yes, I'm being asked to talk about handshakes because, you know what? A lot of people have a wimpy handshake and they really don't know it. They really don't. So a nice firm handshake says a lot about your presence. Men, we don't want the bone crusher. We women do wear rings. But when you're extending your hand and you've got too much in your hands, that doesn't show presence either. So minimal is best. I put this slide in here because I see women stand like this. It looks kind of silly, I think. So watch yourself. Eye contact, we know when someone's giving it to us and when they're not. That's showing respect or not. And then let's talk about how we are so wired. Just a couple of tips. The telephone. You know, when someone calls me and I'm not there, and they leave a number that's so fast or I can't understand them, it's really disconcerting to me. So if you're going to leave a number, make it clear and concise and even mention it twice. You can have presence in your voicemail. Be clear about why you're calling. If you know me or you're referred to me, what is that connection? Be specific and brief and leave your information slowly enough that I can understand what you're trying to say. And then those conference calls, this is so interesting to me. I have one client that it's a large Fortune 100 organization, and honest to goodness, they tell me that they have conference calls with over 100 people on the call, which is really difficult. I will say that if you're on a conference call and it's just a couple of people, ask it to permission to put the caller on a speakerphone before you just do that. And let people know who's listening to the call. Again, it's respect, being considerate of the person speaking. Don't interrupt. That was one that someone said. Wait to speak until it's the appropriate time. And don't overtalk. Identify yourself if you're on the speakerphone. Don't just blurt out and talk over somebody else. I know we've all seen those disrespectful things happen. Who goes through the elevator first? Well, for heaven's sakes, whoever gets there. So here's the rule today in business etiquette. Things have changed, and while women should obviously be very grateful when a man is showing respect like opening a door, the point is that men and women in the workplace now are professionals. Whoever gets to the door first, open the door. This is someone that's so glad to see this person. Haven't seen him in a long time, but that's a little too friendly. Watch the hugs. All right. The third bucket, and the one that I love talking about because so few people just love going to those social events, whether it's a conference or a cocktail party or a meeting after work or what have you. Here are the statistics. 60% of people feel very shy going to events. 75% don't know what they want to talk about. 40% actually have anxiety, social anxiety, to the point that they may just stay at home. So if you're one of those people that really doesn't love going to these big events where it's a lot of strangers, you're not alone. So let me give you some good tips that I hope you can take to the next event. Because schmoozing is really about knowing that you can go into the world and make it work for you. One of the suggestions that I want to give up front next time you're going to a social event of any kind is to recognize before you go what value you have. I want you to walk up there in there with your head up, knowing in your heart of hearts that you're a value generator. You know what a generator is, right? Creates energy. Well, you've got value and you can create energy with that value. What value would you bring to someone that you haven't met, that after they have interacted with you, they are better off than before they met you? So let me give you some ideas. You may have information that somebody else might find valuable. You might know some things or have a deep knowledge in topics that not everyone does. You may have an expertise in something that's very valuable. Maybe you've got a great network. Maybe you're just a good friend. Maybe you have services and products that a lot of people would find interesting or of value to buy. So I want you just to think a minute about that and be sure that you know that you do have value and what is that before you ever walk into a big event. Here's what social savvy is not. Not talking about the bar scene, but those events that are business oriented. Now, recognize too that when we go to these events, we all have stamped on our forehead, make me feel important. Make me feel important. So let's talk about how you can do that and the traits of someone that is a good socializer. And if you think about someone, again, that you consider is a good socializer, I'll bet you that they have these attributes. One of them is a positive attitude. One of the ways you can have a positive attitude before going to the event is to say to yourself, you know what, I'll bet you I'm going to discover somebody or something that will bring value to me tonight. So what's that discovery attitude about? Go into it with something, go into the event with the idea that you're going to come out of the event by meeting someone or learning something that will be impactful. The second one is, for heaven's sakes, be prepared. What do I mean by that? Certainly have your business cards ready. Now, along with those business cards, hand them out sparingly, because 93% of people throw away business cards in less than 24 hours. That's because probably they've received way too many and they didn't receive them because there was really a connection. Some people just think they have to give out business cards. So unless there is a connection, in other words, a reason, a desire that both of you agree to meet again, that's what a business card is about. Make them count. Have a strategy for going to that meeting. One of the strategies that I recommend is to have the rule of 3. And here's what I mean. Too often I meet clients who think that they have to interact and meet all these people. You know what? If you connect with 3, you have been a successful socializer. Does that take the pressure off? Truly, if you walk away from that event and you have truly connected with 3 people, you have been a successful socializer. Obviously, you've got to have interest in people. And so why bother with socializing? Because it's how we make connections and how we build relationships. Let's put it in the perspective of ACT, A-C-T. And what I mean by that is we'll talk about how we approach people, how we connect with people, and the talk. What do we say? The approach. You know, people say so much without saying a word. So presence is very important. Are you approachable? Do you have a pleasant expression on your face, like I want to come up and talk to you? Or are you over in the corner, shy, and sort of giving off the idea that you really don't want to talk to anyone? Now here's another tip. When you go to one of these events, you find that person. You find the wallflower. You find the person that's kind of hiding over by the corner, and you approach that person. Remember the slide that said make me feel important? You never know what a gem that person may be, just shy. And I guarantee you, from many, many experiences, that person will be so grateful that someone has paid attention to him or her and brought him out into conversation. Presence, your posture. Do you have some energy? All that has to do with the approach. Stick out your hand and shake it, whether it's a man or a woman. Yes? Here's the deal today. Both a man and a woman should feel perfectly comfortable extending your hand. I know some gentlemen have been taught that they should wait for the woman to shake the hand. So women, here's what I suggest. If you're going to come up to a man and shake his hand, before you get there, just a couple of steps before, you extend your hand so that he knows you feel comfortable shaking it. Good eye contact, watching personal space. Some people just like to get in your face. So a good amount of personal space is about 18 inches. If you get closer than that, you're really invading my space, and it's very uncomfortable. And then facial expressions. You know what? A smile says so much. Universally, you can go anywhere in the world and smile, and it says so much about you. I learned a long time ago, my face after 40 is my fault. All right, what about the connect, ACT? What about the connect? You in a soundbite, your introductions. Let's talk about this for a minute. One of the things in your introductions is to have a good, strong elevator speech. Let me give you a few tips on this. And of course, it's called an elevator speech because it's something you can say very quickly from the time you take an elevator from the bottom floor up to the top. So quick but concise and memorable. It describes what you do, for whom, how they benefit, what file folder will I put you in? That's one thing. It emphasizes the value generator that you are. What's important or what's impactful about you? What's your differentiator? It certainly opens doors and invites new opportunities. Now, there's no right or wrong links to an elevator speech, but here are the elements I'd like for you to write down. One is to have a hook, something that gets the listener's attention, a hook, a statement or a question that piques my interest, makes me want to hear more. Why is this important? Because conversation at some big event like this, getting to know someone, is very much like playing the game of tennis. Now, some of you have played tennis, some of you have watched people play tennis, but you know that the game is you hit the ball, the conversational ball, back and forth. No one is supposed to hold that ball. That's that whammer that does all the talking. So create enough interest in that first part of the speech to make me want to ask a question, and then get that conversation going back and forth just like the game of tennis. Here's the second element, what you do. Not necessarily a title, and certainly not the corporate speak. In other words, I'm an engineer at Motorola. Duh. You know, that leads to nowhere. But tell me what you do in a way that, again, piques my interest. The wow factor, what makes you special, unique, someone that people want to have on the team, someone I want to get to know. Is there something you're passionate about? In this world of perplexity, successful players are energetic and passionate and dedicated to creating success for themselves and their clients. You can't fake it, so dig down and find it. What are words that come to mind? Committed, dedicated, devoted. And then in some cases, you'll have an ask. You'll want to ask for something. Would come at the end. So it may be you want to ask for a business card or a chance for an appointment. Maybe you want a referral. So let me give you some examples of some good elevator speeches. Listen up. I'm an author and president of a leadership development company that focuses on people skills. What that means is we help leaders create powerful personal brands and professional presence that distinguishes them in the marketplace and creates more success for themselves and others. Yep, that's mine. With a creative flair and a get-it-done attitude, I help rapidly growing financial institutions develop unique hiring and retention strategies that ensure they reach their business goals. That would make me want to ask questions. Here's another one. With an outstanding talent for building, leading, and empowering high-performance teams in startup, restructuring, and acquisition environments, I take a common-sense approach to defining goals and solving business problems. A little bit longer, but still very interesting, and here's a really short one. I help solve the IT network puzzles that you hoped might never happen, and through analytical assessment, develop systems to ensure they never become your worst nightmare. Now, this isn't easy, but I'd like you to work on it and practice it and try it out. Try out an elevator speech, see what works, keep refining it until you get what's comfortable for you. So you in a soundbite, host-guest behaviors. That just means you take the host approach, even though you are the guest, and you go around and make sure that you meet a lot of people. Don't clump. What do I mean by clump? I mean staying with those people that you know and you never get around to meeting enough people to get those 3 connections. So mix and mingle. Stay in a group talking maybe no more than 10 minutes. And then get out of that group. Excuse yourself by saying something like, I've really enjoyed talking with you. Excuse me. You don't have to say, excuse me, I have to go refresh my drink. Or excuse me, I have someone I have to see. Those are all excuses and we know it. So just say, I enjoyed talking with you. Excuse me. And leave. And remembering names. First of all, yes, we've all had issues where we forget someone's name. Sometimes our best friend. So pay attention, really tune everybody out when you're listening to remember someone's name and first being introduced. Shake that hand, give good eye contact, concentrate on what they're saying. And then some people are very good at visualizing someone's name, like, well, someone said my name was Valerie, and they remembered it by visualizing me in an art gallery, right, Valerie Gallery, and I'm looking at the letter V, the first letter of my name. Valerie. That's how they visualized me. Works for them. Repeat the name in conversation, and as soon as you leave, write it down. And there's something about writing it down that helps you remember. Practice all of this. It's not easy, but you will get better at remembering names. Finally, the T. Talk. All right. So what are some icebreakers? What are some things you can say to someone when you first meet them? Well, an easy thing is to talk about the event. Like, well, what did you think about the speaker? By the way, always open-ended questions. Because if you say, did you like the speaker? Yes. That's not playing the game of tennis. So keep it open-ended. Something like, what did you think of the speaker? You can always use the words, tell me. Tell me more about that. That's a great one. What's on your plate these days? Now, how did you start working for your company? You can always compliment someone. That's nice. People don't do it enough. What do you like most about your work? Those are just a few examples. As far as the small talk do's and don'ts, the main thing I want to share with you here is that in today's world, some of the topics that used to be safe aren't. Unfortunately, if you don't know someone, I would not ask about their family, because you don't know, with all the divorce statistics, where somebody is at. So that's not safe anymore. What is safe? Well, by the way, politics is not safe. No one wants to hear about health. We know all those things. So what can you talk about? Well, for sure, things like sports, what's going on in the city that you're attending, movies that you've seen recently, restaurants, places you've gone on vacation. If it's near the summertime, it's a great question to ask. I'm headed to a vacation. What's one of the favorite places you've ever been? And you'll get really a lot of the ball going back and forth on that one. And then sliming, what do I mean by that? Well, that's that whammer, talks all the time. That's that interrupter. That's the clipper, somebody that gives short, quick, cryptic answers, doesn't want to talk. And then the topper. Oh, been there, done it. No matter what you say, they've been there, done it. Not good. And in summary, that rule of 3. Go with the discovery attitude and know what you're going to give of value, not just what you want to get out of the event. Get on somebody else's level, meaning if they're talking about something, stay on that level. Talk with them about their subject. You know what? If you just get the other person talking and you listen a lot of the time, they'll think you're one of the greatest conversationalists. Plan ahead. Plan your small talk. Show that you're approachable. And give your business cards with a purpose. Listen more than you talk. Boy, at a fast-paced webinar, Alex, I hope we covered a lot of things. I'll look forward to any questions that they have. And you're welcome to email me or pick up the phone and call. I'm right here for you, and I'll be here tomorrow.
Great, great. Well, thank you so much, Valerie. I know we are close to near the end of the webinar, but we do have one question that came in that I thought maybe, Valerie, you might be able to provide your insight in, and that is the event in which someone may have a negative professional image or a professional presence. And this is one example that one of the attendees provided, but I think it's applicable to any situation where someone may perhaps be in a situation where they do have a negative image that has been kind of conveyed of them. And certainly I do encourage anyone else, if they do have any specific questions, to send those through the questions box as we go through these. So here's a scenario. I am a manager who recently had to terminate a popular employee. The termination was justified, but the person managed to stage a very successful misinformation campaign, which ultimately led to really having that manager having the manager essentially have a negative image conveyed of them, and that essentially spread around the office to the point where now it almost feels like her role as a project lead is almost questioned, is there anything that this individual can do to really turn around the situation and convert a negative event into a positive one and ultimately reposition themselves in a positive fashion for the individuals that this person manages?
My goodness, I'm sorry, first of all, that that happened to you. How bad you must feel about it. Well, a couple of things come to mind. One is any manager should well document the behaviors or the reasons that you ultimately let that person go, so that from an HR standpoint or a factual standpoint, you can stand your ground if you are ever asked to do that. And you can show, look, these are the things that I tried to do for this person. We had them on a performance performance plan. We gave them every chance. I discussed it with them in their reviews, da-da-da-da-da. So documentation is one. The other thing is, hopefully, whoever sent this in, you yourself have a good reputation in the company, and people know you for your ethics and your reputation being a good one, and therefore they wouldn't question you. In fact, if that relationship with your team is strong, then that would be discounted and it wouldn't spread. If it does spread, then I might consider, and this is really a sensitive issue, you have to give this some thought, but if it's a team situation, and I'm assuming it is, you might consider, if you know that there's a lot of flack going around and discussion and gossip, you might consider calling the team together and having a quick meeting to say, look, I've been made aware of the things that are being said, and I'd just like to clear up any misunderstandings about what has happened, and here are the facts, and stick to the facts. Hope that helps, and feel free to call me if you want more information.
Great, excellent. Thank you, Valerie. We have a couple more questions. One related to bringing a briefcase to an interview. Is that something that you recommend, not recommend? Does that affect one's professional image in the interview process? Any recommendations on that?
Well, sometimes a briefcase is just fine. Other times, just a nice portfolio works just as well. I'm not sure what you'd want to put in the briefcase to fill it up with information. My recommendation is always to have a nice leather portfolio with a nice pen, and during that interview process, ask them, say, do you mind if I take a few notes? That really says something about you. It says I'm interested enough that I want to make sure I capture what you're telling me, and open it up and, in fact, take some notes as the interview is going along. If there's a reason to have a briefcase, if you have materials that you need to show the person, there's nothing wrong with that. Make sure that the briefcase, your laptop briefcase, or your laptop leather case, whatever you carry, is groomed, that it's clean and it's not all bent out of shape, literally, or scuffed, just like your shoes.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much, Valerie. And just to be respectful of everyone's time, I will recommend that those whose questions we did not get to during the Q&A, I certainly encourage you to reach out to Valerie directly. She's been gracious enough to provide not only her email address but also her phone number. So I definitely encourage you to really reach out to her with any additional follow-up questions that you have. And if you'd like to learn a little bit more about Valerie, you also have a link to Valerie's video. And what we'll actually do is a follow-up email also include Valerie's contact information. And one thing that we're actually doing right now is recording the webinar, and we'll also make the recording made available to all the attendees, and we'll include that link in our follow-up email to you as well. But again, I want to thank everyone for attending our webinar, and I especially want to thank Valerie for taking out the time to be with us today. I think this is a very relevant topic that has really resonated with a lot of us today on the webinar. And I definitely would encourage those of you who found these webinars to be beneficial to continue attending them. Valerie is going to present another topic later on this year on personal branding. We actually have another webinar coming up later this month as well. I encourage you to attend those webinars as well if you think that that could be helpful to you and could add value to all the other resources that you're currently being made available to you. And with that, I think we'll call it a day. Valerie, do you have any other comments or topics that you'd like to share with the rest of the audience before we close out?
You know, just that it's a joy, and there are so many questions, so I meant what I said. You just give me a call or an email, and I'm here for you.
Great, great. Well, thank you so much, Valerie, and thank you again, everyone, for attending our webinar today, and we look forward to seeing you at our next one. Bye, everyone.
Bye.